And welcome to No Summit Required Podcast, the podcast where we talk about nothing. And here's your dynamic duo of hosts, starting with Romina with the good hair beaming in from the Star Trek Enterprise. And of course, your Dark Lord, the interwebs, here in his dark cave, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required Podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, review, do all the things. We need them.
Yeah, maybe someday we'll actually have episodes in places where you can leave a review.
Well, I mean, that task was delegated to our absentee third wheel, but say no more, say less. But yeah, I think tonight's episode is actually pretty interesting, Romina. I decided that we could use a little something interesting, like we could have a debate format, and the thing is, we can both argue for both sides of this argument. So the debate is technology too expensive? And for an example of that, smartphones, really good example. And I bring this up because Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, the biggest tech YouTuber, is getting a little bit of heat. You might have seen this. You might have seen some of my replies about it, where it's a spicy take. It's a hot take. He says that maybe they should stop making budget phones. These big manufacturers should stop making budget phones altogether and just make flagship phones, but make them last longer, support the software longer, ensure battery replacements, and just keep these flagship phones longer. And that it makes a lot. Sometimes you get a much better phone if you buy a flagship phone that's a little older than if you buy a budget phone brand new. And I think it's an excellent point because I think there's a lot of depreciation in the Android phones, maybe less so in the iPhones. But here's the thing. I have plenty of old iPhones that, as long as the screen is intact, I have a lot of these old iPhones that work perfectly fine and are perfectly fast today, like 3, 4, 5 years later. And it really is interesting that they would be better phones as long as you update the software than if you try to go and get a budget phone of a different type. It's better to buy an old iPhone than a new budget Android phone. It's better to buy a used flagship iPhone. You know, that like if you buy a used, you could find like a used iPhone 10s or a used iPhone 12 from like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you could get that relatively cheap today. Relatively cheap. You could even get like a used iPhone 10R, the XR, the 10R. And that would be a better phone today than any, and you'd get it for like $300, $400, and it'd be a better phone. As long as the battery's fine, it's going to be a better phone than trying to buy a budget $500, $600 Android phone.
And what's the controversy here? Why is he getting some heat?
Because people are saying that it's a privileged position to say, easy for you to say because you have all this money. And also, like some anonymous person made this absurd claim as far as like, oh, there's people, here, and they're an American, and they're saying like, oh, there's people here like making $800 a month that, can't afford these flagship phones. And I'm like, I call BS because I know true brokies that have things I don't have. Somehow during the pandemic, I knew a lot of brokies who somehow have a PS5. I don't own a PS5, Romina. I know people with an OLED Switch that make like less than $2,000 a month, and they got an OLED Switch. I know people that make less than $2,000 a month. They got Jordans. I don't have those Jordans. I know people who because here's the thing with a phone, especially a phone like Romina, I'm still rocking the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I'm still rocking the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I am literally 2 going on 3 iPhones behind. Do you realize when the iPhone 15 comes out this year, I will literally be 3 iPhones behind? Like, I haven't felt a reason to change and upgrade, but my phone works fine. It's still fine. I have no reason. And there's the thing about it is when everyone buys phones now, even broke people, when they buy phones, they're going on a plan and they're spending $20-$30 a month. They're not spending $1,000 out of pocket. They're getting a $1,000 phone and they're paying $30 a month, $20 a month, and they're not even paying off the phone. All they do is switch out and upgrade to the new one on lease. So all anyone does is lease phones anyway. People who are broke and work 9-to-5 jobs, they all lease phones. I own my iPhone. I don't lease it and it's not on credit. I own my iPhones. So
Right.
I believe that somebody can buy, if they can either lease their phones, or if they buy something on the used market from like someone like me, they can get it for, if you buy it from somebody who has the money, you're going to buy like a phone that's maybe 2 or 3 years old, and it could be a flagship phone. And you could get that flagship phone. You might get it for like $200-$300. It's going to be a better phone than if you try to do a budget phone, because some people, they buy budget phones, but they still buy the budget phones on lease, Romina. So they're paying $12 a month for the budget phone. So the thing is, at the end of the day, they get a better phone with more features buying a used phone from somebody, even if it had like a cracked screen. By the time they go and get that repaired and fixed for cheap, they have a practically brand new phone. So like, I think the flagship argument, I think it makes sense. Now, do I really believe, just stop manufacturing budget tech and let everybody lease or buy on credit altogether? Like, because I don't even think Marquez goes to the extreme of, there's no more budget phones ever. But I don't think that it would be the doom of Apple or Samsung if, as the two leading brands, they decide that they're out of the budget phone game indefinitely and that they only make flagships. I think that most people would just get the flagships on a lease, or they'd buy them used in the aftermarket. And if what happened was, because they're doing that, they make these things more compatible with the software, they last longer, they recoup all this stuff from not having to make budget phones in the first place and waste the resources. You're getting better phones, they last longer, software is supported longer. That means that in the used market, you get a better phone for less anyway in the long run. And even if you have it on lease, it means that you don't have to upgrade so soon, because then you're not spending that money out again, and you get and then that once that lease is paid off, you get to enjoy the phone for another 2 years, and you don't feel compelled to upgrade again so quickly.
Yeah, I think that I went from having the 8 Plus to having the 12 or 13. Yeah, so it was like a really big jump for me. And mainly I did it because I was going on a trip. And I had a pretty good phone. It wasn't giving me any problems. I probably could have gone like another year or two. But I was in a position where I could upgrade at the time. And then I saw what was happening with the camera, like the new stuff that was coming out. And that got me really excited.
Yeah,
and
you
so
waited
that was
3
luxury,
generations of phone. You went because you skipped the 10, you skipped the 10, you skipped the 10S generation, you skipped the 11, and you went straight to the 12. So you missed 3 generations of phone, but you skipped 4. You skipped to the 4th. So like that's like 4 generations of phones, and that's a big difference, a big leap. But that also makes the argument for, it took that long before you really just had a use case to where your thing was so outdated to be a hindrance.
Right.
And the thing is, by skipping that many generations of phones, you saved thousands of dollars by waiting that long.
Right. And I mean, again, like the main reason was just like the camera, because I wasn't having really any other problems with the phone. I just got jealous of everybody having these amazing photos and videos. And that was it. But like you, I buy outright. And it's just a lot more economical, I feel like.
I feel like that for sure. And I also like not having another bill. And it also does make me keep the phone longer and say, well, because I own it and I'm not seeing the payments.
It does. And then also because usually when you get it from like the phone company, they'll send you a little message where they're like, hey, you can update your phone now. And it's just like another way of getting you into another contract, right?
Exactly. So, I mean,
But
and
it's
since I
tempting.
buy Apple, if I liquidate my phones in the aftermarket, I can always get some money for them. That's
Mhm.
another it's another potential, like, oh, in the worst case scenario, I get rid of this thing and I get a couple $100 or something. So like there's and with how many iPhones I have, that could be, a considerable amount of money that adds up if I just liquidate all my iPhones, for example, if I needed money. So, I mean, I think that what we get dollar for dollar has been better than it's ever been. I honestly like I think it's obvious that I would take the stance that no, technology is not too expensive. We have so much free
Mm.
stuff. We have so much stuff that's so good that if you buy used tech, it's so good. Used tech, any tech that you buy that was like 2018 tech, which is like 5 years ago. I cannot believe that 2018 was 5 years ago. If you buy any tech from 2018, it is still the best technology that's ever existed.
Mhm.
It's so I don't feel, and the thing is, you get tech from 2018 so cheap, Romina, today. Like, my God, like I'll give you an example. If I like took a camera that is like even like 4 or 5 years old,
Mm.
like the Sony A7C is, I think, like 4 years old now or something, right?
Yeah.
Sony A7C, still phenomenal camera.
Mhm.
Still can do anything for the most part a YouTuber needs to do. And it's a full frame camera, so it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But for like $1,500, what you get in a full frame camera, a compact full frame camera, flippy screen,
Mhm.
all this stuff for $1,500 is great. It's phenomenal. And now what you get for like $500, you get a perfect vlogging camera for Sony. Yes, the lens is built in and it's not really a zoom lens because now you have the ZV-1F. It's
Yes.
$500.
Mhm.
I just bought one for my giveaway. I have to buy a second one because I'm doing a giveaway when I hit 600,000 subscribers. Um, you get so much for $500. It's the perfect YouTube camera, and
Yeah.
that's it. It's $500. And some people want to be crybabies and sit there and be like, "Oh, it's hundreds of dollars. Everyone doesn't have that." It's like children can earn $500. If I literally just raked lawns
Yeah.
and mowed grass for a summer, I'd have that camera. It's like I hate this stupid rationalizations people come up with. And by the way, if you're a grown adult and you're not disabled,
Excuses.
excuses. If you're a grown adult and you're like, because I hate this stupid anon Twitter argument. It was so stupid because it's like if you're a grown adult living in America and you're not
Yeah.
disabled and you make $800 a month, you're just irresponsible. Sorry, I know that's a hot take. I was like, "Oh my God, how dare you? How privileged
How
are you?"
dare
It's
you? How dare
no,
Roberta?
no, it's not privilege. It's not privilege. I know children that make more than that. I know children who go out and mow lawns and rake leaves or do odd jobs. I know kids who are 17 years old, have their driver's license, doing damn DoorDash and do that. I know
Mhm.
children in America and overseas that get on Fiverr and make more money than that. Somebody who's making that complaint, if they're not disabled or mentally unbalanced, it's just a BS argument. There's no reason. It's like fast food pays more than that. Fast food pays $15 an hour now. All of them. So it's $30,000 a year. You can live off that if you're not in New York or California. So the idea that people can't afford $30 a month. Again, I told you, I know broke people
Mm.
who have a newer phone than me right now and the new Apple Watch.
I mean, it's not even that. Like, I just found something out about my friend, which I'm not going to say publicly because
Mhm.
they'll probably hear it, but I'm going to tell you later because I know jaws are going to drop. But
Okay.
it is like, it's not even uh this stuff where, like, for example, I could justify the cost of getting a fancy equipment if it's something that's an investment for my business, right? But if
Yeah.
we're talking about something that is not an investment, right? And that
Sure.
is number 1, a luxury, or number 2, entertainment,
Yeah.
um, then you don't have a right to complain about not being able to afford other stuff that is necessary.
Correct. If you're going to spend money on non-essentials, don't complain that your essentials aren't being met because you decided that you wanted like feeling better was more important than doing better. Feeling better, that's the society. Feeling better is more important to people than doing better. Because if you spend money on the things you know you're supposed to, your responsibilities or things that will better your life, then you will start doing better. But if you decide that instead it's more important to you to have an Xbox or a PlayStation or a pair of Jordans or a handbag, you're just being irresponsible. You're putting your feelings over the facts and the reality. Because, like, if you feel bad, go read a book, go take a walk, go take a shower, go soak in the tub. Epsom salt is $4. Like, relax your muscles, throw some Epsom salt in the bath, sit there, pay $5, have a bubble bath. Treat yourself, have a bubble bath. Go get a dollar sundae off the dollar menu. Feel better. Like, you can feel better for under $5. You can feel better for under $5 without going to the red light district. Wanted to see if I could make you spit water. Like, yeah. So, like, you could, so the thing is, it's like you can make yourself feel better. And I'm not discounting mental health. I'm just saying that, like, when you actually start even going to therapy, they tell you there's like simple things that are $0 that can make you feel better that you could do.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
what therapy will tell you and teach you.
Right.
They'll teach you coping tools. And the thing is, people decided that instead of coping,
you know what's funny, Roberto? You don't even need therapy to tell you that. You just look on YouTube. You know how many people there are on YouTube giving.
Well, ChatGPT can tell you that now.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. ChatGPT for therapy now.
Yeah, you could just ask, "Hey, make me happy."
I should program an emotional support chatbot.
I mean, that's coming. Well, here's the thing.
I will make a fortune selling an emotional support chatbot.
I mean, there already are. Like some therapy apps, right, where you could just chat about some of your problems, and they have like automated responses for generic things that you might say. But I think that going back to talking about self-love, which I guess is like what you were talking about before, which is basically self-love and
self-care, self-love,
self-care. Yeah,
it can go too far. And the thing is, when it goes too far, because like I think Alex Hormozy controversially said that self-love is a scam, or that self-care is a scam. And I agree with him. It becomes one because the self-care industry is a scam.
Oh, yeah.
Self-care, when done properly and done by yourself for...
Well, everything in moderation.
$0.
Everything in moderation.
In moderation. I'm not saying it has to be $0. I'm not saying it has to be
the
dollar menu.
Roberto, the thing is that this goes back to the original topic, which is that people will use that as an excuse to go buy the latest iPhone. Right? Well, so it's like, oh, well, I'm just giving myself a little treat.
Exactly.
It's a $2,000 treat.
Exactly. What brand racked up during the pandemic aside from all the pharmaceutical companies? You know who made out like a bandit during the pandemic? I'm sure you know.
Who?
The luxury goods industry. It's why Bernard Arnault beat Elon Musk and beat Jeff Bezos. He keeps trading places with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. No matter what the economy is doing, he's always right there. And that's because he owns 63 luxury brands, the most famous of which is what, Romina?
I don't know.
Louis Vuitton.
Oh.
Bernard Arnault is the founder and owner of Louis Vuitton, and he owns 63 luxury brands. So as a conglomerate, like, he has the monopoly on the luxury industry. And the thing is, during the pandemic, he exceeded Elon Musk during the pandemic in net worth. Elon Musk has lost $200 billion. So now I think he's richer than Elon Musk again. And he beat Jeff Bezos for number one and then number two. So Bernard Arnault is always somewhere between being the richest and third richest man in the world at any given time. And the thing is, the other two guys had to literally be rocket scientists. The other two guys had to literally throw rocket ships into space, build an e-commerce brand, build electric vehicles. The other two had to be geniuses. All he had to do was the luxury goods. It's like, so
make people feel
like they're special when they're not. Let's be real. Because like a status luxury item has no utility. A status luxury, the only luxury item, Romina, that truly has any justification, like the only luxury item that anybody can buy, and anybody in theory, but mostly it would be men for a reason in this case when I say it, because that makes sense. Rolex is the only expensive luxury purchase that actually makes sense. Rolex is the only one. And the reason Rolex is the only one is not just because of the utility of a timepiece and because of the resale value and the fact that it keeps going up in value. It's not the real reason. The reason is because Rolex is the only actually luxury brand item that when you wear it, that it buys you into a fraternity. It buys you into a secret society, essentially. There are places, meetings, and things that you go where you just like, I hate this break it to anybody, but it's like a Coco Chanel bag doesn't give you a sorority of people who are going to better your career. No one's going to give you a career or a better job off of a Coco Chanel bag, a Louis Vuitton bag, and everything like that. Most likely thing that's going to happen, besides people talking crap behind your back or thinking it's fake, it's most likely thing to happen is they rob you. Is the most likely thing to happen is that. But a Rolex matters because that's the captains of industry, that's the people in Wall Street, that's these other meetings, that's the
it's like joining Soho House. It's like a club where
it's like joining Skull and Bones. It's like is like I feel that a Rolex watch, in terms of what it actually does, if you go to high-end places where if you go to power brokers, wearing a Rolex matters. Even if you go to the elites, and I hate to say it this way, but even if you go to the elites, a Coco Chanel bag, a Louis Vuitton bag, a Louis Vuitton wallet, it's like the shoes you wear is not going to matter. The Rolex is. It's the only thing that actually really does it when it comes to that. It's the only thing that has that much of a currency in our culture. And it's universal no matter what country you go to in the world. That's the difference with Rolex. You see what I'm saying? It's the only one. There's not another brand like that. Jordans don't do that for you. Like if I want to dunk on the homies, Jordans don't do that for you.
Yeah, but they look cool.
Yeezys don't do that for you. And Yeezys look ugly. Sorry, Adidas. Like there's nothing. Now, I'll tell you what. No, Birkin bags don't do anything. Birkin bags, they have resale value. But it's artificially inflated resale value. But there's no Birkin bag that if you're not going to work exclusively in the fashion industry, and even then, that wouldn't really do it. A Birkin bag would do anything for you. And a Birkin bag just says that you're somebody who can afford to put $20,000, $35,000 into a handbag like a moron. And that just makes you somebody that's a millionaire or makes $1 million a year, or maybe is high six figures and doesn't care or something like that. But it means you'll also never be a billionaire, because if someone's going to be a billionaire, they're not spending $35,000 on a handbag, because if someone's going to be a billionaire, $35,000 is 1/5 or 1/10 of them buying a $10 million rental unit that's going to cash flow in their portfolio, accrue equity over time, and that they can also spend years writing off as tax losses. You can't write a Birkin bag off for your tax losses. So the thing is, the $35,000 for a Birkin bag is a fraction of part of your money for essentially what's going to end up being your tax shelter anyway. That's how a baller really would be thinking. And but then again, they might just buy that to make somebody happier, where there's reasons people buy that stuff and everything like that. But honestly, the people who make that money, with the exception of influencers like the Kardashians, they don't spend money on those things. Like the people with real money don't spend money on those things. The people who need to be the face of money do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what it comes down to is, because we're talking about resale stuff, I like that really all depends.
You'd have to have access to the resale market in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy Birkin bags, and it's not going to be the same as when you bought it.
And it's not going to be the same as a Rolex. It's not going to be
when you sell it, it's not going to be the same as when you bought it.
Yeah.
But with stuff that's a little bit more practical, like watches, that lasts a little bit longer.
I would say that even the luxury item of a yacht is a massively depreciating asset. It's worse than a supercar.
It's the worst.
It's worse than
the thing is that it's also because of the maintenance. It's like you're flushing money down every
the maintenance,
day.
The cost,
as soon as
the wear
you buy
and tear.
It's
the worst thing you could buy. It's the worst thing you could buy. Right? It has in terms of utility, Do you know what like became a luxury item, but at least it has a theory? It's not even a luxury item, but it has utility. All the Apple stuff at least has utility.
Mm.
Its resale value is decent, but the main thing is it has utility. You can make time or money back off the Apple products. There is a such thing with the tech where like, all right, you know this. If you were a video editor, designer, musician, you were judged by whether you had a MacBook or not.
Mm-hmm.
Still are in some cases. Some cases still are. But it's not as big of a pretentious thing as it was literally 10 years ago. Why?
Right.
The tech has gotten so good and everything else that people be like, oh, Samsung, or there's stuff in gaming now to where it's like, oh, you got a Razer. There's like, so there's niche brands in tech now that you don't look like a peasant just because it's not Apple. But it's still but here's the thing with tech, at least the status play with tech, there's still utility.
Right. Which I sort of brought up earlier when I was talking about the fact that the reason that I wanted to get the later iPhone was because of the camera.
Yeah,
right?
It's for something it does, not what it says
something.
about you. It's for the thing it does.
Right, exactly. I think, I mean, I don't even remember any time that I've bought something because of what it says about me. I don't think I have done that.
Yeah. With me, that purchase could arguably, it's going to be the Rolex that I buy myself for turning 40 next year. Next year I turn 40, and I said, I'm buying myself a Rolex at 40. It's my birthday present to myself. And some people would say that's just a status play, but it's like, well, it is somewhat in the sense that I'm 40. And that, so at a certain age as a man, I'm like, okay, I'm doing that. But the same, and in my case, I'll probably literally unbox it on some platform and probably get some money from that anyway. So it's like, it's still gonna, I might literally be able to write it off as a deduction for that reason. But here's the thing. I'm not going to buy the most expensive Rolex like a jackass. That's not the point. But here's the thing. The Rolex does get me into when I go and we go to like certain influencer events and then I go to the after parties, I could wear the Rolex. If I wear the Rolex at those after parties, it says something about me to people who can do something for me and would do something for me because I've passed through a different filter for them. I'm good enough as a person and in my abilities and my talents, but the Rolex means I don't have to have a conversation or convince anybody. That's what a Rolex does for you. A Rolex does that for you at a certain position in your life. If you have access that you've earned through your ability to people at that level, it's something that gets you past the job application. And to be honest with you, actually, I want to ask you this question. What do you think from it when everyone says, oh, go to a good school because of the network? What do you think is more practical if you want to network? A college degree, regardless of where it's from, even an Ivy League. What do you think has more networking value and more networking leverage for somebody? A bachelor's degree or a Rolex?
You said regardless of the school.
Let's exclude the Ivies for now. Let's exclude the Ivies for now. Let's exclude Harvard, Yale, Stanford, the places where you have to be that. But let's say because most people don't ever get to go to the schools.
All right,
people can go to so you can go to Penn. You can go to Penn. You can go to
no. You know, I think it depends because you can be wearing the watch, but if you're wearing the watch in the wrong place, then it's irrelevant what watch you're wearing.
Well, if you have the degree and you go the degree,
but you said one or the other.
Well, here's the thing. Actually, everyone respects a Rolex. Everyone does respect a Rolex. The place you don't want to wear it is the hood. So like, but what I'm getting at is, okay, what do you think? Let me phrase it differently. What do you think opens more doors for you? What opens more doors for you? A degree from a non-Ivy school or a $10,000 Rolex? Do you think a $60,000 education, a $60,000 education, a degree?
Yeah.
Do you think that degree, if we're not talking doctor, lawyer, nurse, we're talking about a liberal arts degree. What do you think? A $60,000 to $80,000 liberal arts education or a $10,000 Rolex?
You can make those same connections outside of the school and probably better.
Right. So if you're not going to engineering,
get the watch.
Right. So if you get a liberal, so the thing is, at least if we qualify it down to a liberal arts degree, right?
Yep.
A $60,000 to $80,000 liberal arts degree, wherever the hell you go, is not a better investment, a networking, than a $10,000 Rolex.
Right.
You're better off with a $10,000 Rolex and $5,000 worth of online courses.
And then you actually go to
and maybe
networking.
a $500 suit or suit skirt, whatever your dress attire,
Yeah.
dress attire,
Dress attire.
and throw on that and call it a day.
And then you
Hell,
actually go to events that matter.
To be honest,
Yeah.
scrap the Rolex, wear a $1,000 piece of business attire as a man or a woman, go to the right networking events.
Yeah.
Have spent maybe $1,000 in books to be well read and well spoken and to be able to talk to those people in an educated manner.
Yeah.
Get yourself to an event.
If you know what you're talking about, your foot's in the door.
It's better to just buy, it's better to go find the syllabus for free and steal the damn reading list for college and just buy the books and read them and return them and like literally do that, or find the books for free, or order the books into your own local library for $0 and then literally read them for free, or order them into Barnes and Noble under a different name, then show up and just get them off the shelf when they shelve them and read them for free every day. And then like, and literally just give yourself a free freaking education. And then, oh, I have all these questions that I can't answer. Ask Chat GPT at this point. Literally tell it to lecture you and tell you the finer points of what you don't understand. Read books, have AI explain the rest to you. It's literally free at that point. And oh, technology is too expensive. No, there's so much free technology. You can educate yourself to beyond the privileged class. You could be more educated than most privileged people on earth for $0 if you actually just hack it properly at this point. It's so ridiculous. And then with a minor investment of a few hundred or a few $1,000s, you have the means of production to compete in the marketplace at this point. Because a laptop where you can literally code and compete, if you can code, you can compete. And a laptop to do it, you can get a good laptop for $500 to $800. And you can get a credit card. Anyone can get a credit card at this point if you haven't already screwed up your credit. So to say you don't have access to the tools, the resources, the education, the means of production in this era is ridiculous. It's too cheap. It's too free. It's literally a choice at this point in the Western world. And you're still going to lose to people in third world countries who have more hustle than you anyway, because then we're going to give them all visas and come over here and they're going to take the job you don't qualify for. So that's what's happening. So yeah, right. And I support it. I'm like, great. It's like, I know it's controversial not to get super political. The thing is, I would love to open up the damn border. And it's like, I'm technically against that, but I would love to open up the just because I just think that the crying would the crying would, you'd have something. I'll give you something to cry about. Because the minute you open that up, you know what happens?
Yeah.
All these geniuses, as long as you actually have some border security, like all these geniuses come in and all of a sudden, you're going to be like, oh, why do they have all these jobs? It's like, y'all don't qualify for them. That's why. Can you do what they do? And the answer will be no. You have geniuses like Will Berry. So you have geniuses over in India and in all types of countries that are impoverished in different nations in Africa and in South America that are building and programming on Raspberry Pi computers that were built for less than $50. They have Raspberry Pi laptops that were built for less than $50, and they're saying they're teaching themselves how to code. But then we're going to sit here and we're going to tell grown-ass American people that, they can't learn how to do this stuff and everything like that, when children in impoverished nations are making themselves more valuable than grown-ass adults in America in the most privileged country in the world. It's ridiculous at this point.
Roberto says, I'm not going to get political.
Well, I think that's less political, and I think that's just more about like work ethic, because where's the politics? Yeah. The only political thing about that is the authority part of opening up a border, but the justification for it is we do not have people here in the most privileged, soft, and you have free education here. They don't even have free education in other countries. My family's from Panama. You have to qualify and you have to test to go to further your education, or it's not free. You have to qualify on a test or they don't educate you past middle school.
Yeah.
Unless you pay for it. You either have to be smart, do well in school, get good grades, or you're not entitled to any education after middle school. Can you imagine if America was like that? Could you imagine if we didn't offer people free education past middle school? Imagine what a competitive advantage that's supposed to be in America. So why isn't it a competitive advantage? Why are our best and brightest people coming from underdeveloped countries? The CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, came from poverty and grew up in, oh God, where did he grow up? It was in a province in India, but he was poor. His family came here poor. And now he's a CEO and a billionaire, and he runs one of the most valuable companies in the world. And he's a poor brown kid. What the hell, man? And there was not a better successor that was American born and raised to take his place, by the way. There was not. That's why they didn't pick one. They had their pick of every American that they could have possibly had, and there was nobody better. And he's not the only one. Of the top 10 tech companies in America, 5 of them have Indian American CEOs for a reason. And good for them, by the way.
Maybe it's because they're getting a little, maybe because once they pass middle school, they're already starting to get excited about owning their own phones and smartphones and devices. And so their priorities are in another place where other countries that don't really have those kinds of luxuries accessible to most people, they don't have those kind of distractions, right? So like all they really have is working and going to school, if that is an option.
Yeah. I mean, you said it to yourself, though, right there in that sentence, because they don't have access to those things and we have so much here. Everyone thinks that like, oh, it's too expensive. I can't have this. I can't have the latest this. I can't have that. Oh, it's like people feel more poor in America than they actually are because relative to the poverty abroad, it's nothing. And it's a choice that people are making.
And what a blessing that it is that these devices are so expensive, right? Because imagine if they weren't. Imagine if they were actually just a little bit above cost of what it costs to manufacture them. These devices would be in everybody's hands. Nobody would ever get anything done, or would they?
Well, they take everything for granted. They take everything for granted because the thing is the normalization of the, like we have better tools today than they used to make the first Star Wars. Every like, okay, I'll put it to you like this: 2 out of 3 Americans today have devices that were better than what produced the greatest films of all time in their parents' and grandparents' generation. Every person today in America basically has a better filmmaking tool than made Schindler's List. Your phone has a better, even with a budget smartphone, you have a better camera than was used to film Schindler's List. You also have better editing tools than were used to make Schindler's List. And that's if you're a brokey with a $300 phone. If you're a brokey with a $300 phone, you have a better tool than made that. If you're a brokey with a $300 phone, you have a better filmmaking device than made American Graffiti. Like you see what I'm saying? You have a better, if you have a like crappy $500 laptop, you have a better tool to make things than every single composer that has ever lived. Because you have access to every musical instrument if you have a $500 laptop.
Right.
Like you have more to work with than Mozart did. And what are you going to freaking do with it? If you have a better ability as a writer with all the tools at your disposal with a smartphone or a laptop than Edgar Allan Poe had. What are you going to do with it? Like the absurdity of what was created without the stuff that was made in the last 30 years that everyone has, by the way, in this country. And if you look at all the great work that was built and made and produced before it, everybody with a $600 laptop has a better animation studio than Walt Disney had.
Yeah.
Everybody has the access to better animation tools to produce better work than Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Everyone has it. Everyone. So where's the excuses, y'all? Where's the I don't have the means of production? Like you have the if you are over 30 years old, 20 years old, 18 years old, you have better means of production than everyone who produced anything before 1985. All the works of humanity before 1985, you have the capacity to beat them. If you have a
just
freaking
the
$500 phone or laptop.
Some of the best works.
Yeah. The best works. The best.
Yeah.
In record time, by the way, by comparison. You have all the tools. You have the access to be more educated than everyone that existed before 1985.
Yeah.
What the hell, man? So all this crybaby nonsense is really annoying. Like, it's like you have it and it's affordable. Because, by the way, the $500 phone you have is more technology than put someone on the moon the first time around. Put people into space 70 odd years ago. Like 60, 70 odd, you know what I mean. So, like,
yeah.
They're like, it's ridiculous.
So what's the solution here? Because it is ridiculous, like the fact that we have this technology available, but there hasn't really been I feel like we haven't reached that renaissance where we have a lot of people who are doing stuff that is I feel like we still have so many people who are using these things as excuses to not do things when really we should just have a bunch of people who are doing things. So what do you feel is the biggest blocker here? Like, what's
I think it's people's mentality.
People?
It's people's mentality. It's their belief system. It's their mentality. Because even somebody that's a journalist is pushing back a little bit on me, saying the average American lives paycheck to paycheck. First of all, I'm going to call bullshit on that. And it's not going to be a popular stance, but everything like that. The average American, I'm going to blame the average American. I'm going to literally dunk on people. The average American lives paycheck to paycheck because we have a bunch of freaking morons that were latchkey kids that grew up on freaking television and grew up on the freaking internet and watched the Kardashians and watched all this bullshit and everything like that. Because a bunch of brokey, everyday paycheck to paycheck Americans, a bunch of them still have more shit than they're supposed to have and everything like that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, Romina, because I am telling you, I mean this. It's like, why is it during a global pandemic when everyone couldn't work? Why the hell was the PlayStation 5 selling out? Why? Because it's not like there's that many people in excess of money. And even on the reseller market where people were scalping it, couldn't get it. Supply chain issues aside, you still can't hardly get one now. We all, like, I'm going to tell you straight up, people like a bunch of like people I know that are a little bit more on the hood side.
Yeah.
They have PS5, they have PlayStation, they have Xbox, they have Switch, they got it. It's like I saw a dude who literally was in between jobs when he got on like Gary Vee's live stream during the pandemic and everything. And Gary was like, "What can I do for you, my friend?" It was like, "Man, it would mean the world to my kid and make me a superhero if he can get this PS5, can't get one anywhere." It's like, okay, we're going to get you going. He could have asked for any resources. He could have asked for anything to better his life. And the thing that he wanted was, and again, he's a good dad, but the thing they wanted, he's literally in between jobs. He's literally doing DoorDash. He's hustling. He's doing all this stuff. And the thing he wanted was a PlayStation 5 so his kid could feel special and everything. Like, that kid doesn't need a PlayStation 5. There are resources that $600 for that PlayStation 5 could have done for that family because he was in between jobs. It's what you said about priorities. It's what you said about priorities. The average American is living paycheck to paycheck because the average American has been programmed by social media to sit there and see rich people and influencers all damn day. And then doesn't make decisions and does lifestyle creep, lifestyle inflation. You see it all the time. Nobody needs a damn shoe collection. Nobody, men or women, men, you don't need a sneaker collection if you're broke. Women, you don't need a shoe collection. You don't need the heels. You don't need the wedges. You don't need all these. No, it's like our grandparents and our great-grandparents were wildly practical, and they bought things they needed that bettered their life, built to last, the household, and they didn't buy status items, and they didn't buy luxury items, and they didn't do all these things. When people get their refund checks on taxes, Romina, you see it. There's always, whenever it's tax time and it's time to get the refund checks, all the electronic stores and all these places have doorbuster sales and all this stuff and everything because they know what people are going to do. They're going to spend. The average American can live off of a lot of what they make because every Dave Ramsey story is always people clawing their way out of debt and people who they didn't even increase their income half the time. They just said, I'm going to be responsible and I'm going to spend less and I'm going to save and I'm going to do without some luxury items. I'm going to cut some subscription services. I'm going to do all these things and everything like that. Or I'm going to work a few extra hours. Everybody that whines on Twitter about privilege and influencers every damn minute and everything like that, you're spending 2 hours a day on Twitter. 2 hours a day on Twitter is $15 an hour they're not working for. That's $30 a day. $30 a day, 365 days a year is a $10,000 increase. Huh. That's called math. Like, there's a reason that people are struggling. And it's not that I'm not saying that people couldn't be paid better wages. I'm not saying they couldn't, but I'm saying there's a lot of places where that's not the issue. A lot of issues not qualifying for better wages with by having a better career, better job, and having more work-life balance because you have skills that are specialized. And then you can have that. I say this as someone, Romina, there are people that are making more money that are single, making more money that are single than I made 10 years ago, helping a family of 5 to get by on the same amount of money they say they're struggling with single. Inflation's bad. It ain't that damn bad. That's choices.
Right.
I mean,
you go back to that dad and his kid, and that's it's a cycle now. Because now his kid is being raised to think, well, this is my life. This is my lifestyle. This is how I grew up. And so when that kid is an adult and then has to start making choices like, well, I mean, I was taught like that I would always have access to this kind of technology or have access to this kind of entertainment, regardless of whatever we were going through. Right. And so that creates a sense of entitlement and a sense of privilege, which then creates that that mindset, which holds people back. Because if we're talking about like being a good dad, whatever, like, oh, that's really nice, whatever. There's 1,000 other toys that he could have bought that could have enriched that child's life. 1,000 other toys. 1,000 other toys.
He could have
minimum,
said, "Hey,
right?
Gary." He said, "Gary, like education, access, and the ability to create and do things and build a brand like you did means the world to people and it changes people's lives. Gary, can you buy my family a new computer? Can you get us that new MacBook Pro so that, you know, for the next couple of years, we'll have the latest and greatest MacBook Pro to be able to learn, work off of, teach the kids, make extra money." Yeah. And Gary would have said, no problem. We'll get you a MacBook Pro. We're going to go to Best Buy, Apple Store. We'll ship it out tomorrow. He could have done that. And Gary would have done that. So he could have asked for a $3,000 MacBook Pro that takes care of the family for 5 years instead of a PlayStation 5.
Right.
My grandmother went into debt to get us a computer, changed my life back when I was 13, 25 damn years ago. It's like that. It makes a difference. Could have been a priority, could have been that. Now everyone has access more or less to a computer and they're not using it to change their lives. And that's how it is. And people keep making these excuses. And again, even people who aren't struggling keep using the struggle narrative. Because again, like this person talking to me is a writer for Forbes and is also like tied to some other like media companies and says that they're the CEO of something. Not that that means anything anymore. It's like, and they're telling me average American lives paycheck to paycheck. I'm glad you're using the data of who you know, but most people don't own a flagship phone, and with good reason. Bullshit. There's a survey that says that 60% of Americans have 2 Apple devices in their house. What, you think they're all goddamn iPods? Like, there's like, no. We know that people are full of shit. We know that people are full of shit. They're like the reality is that we have a consumer culture that has run amok. I blame the corporations for it, frankly. I blame social media for it, but I also think people don't take accountability and say, if these signals are programming me, making me feel less than, making me buy things, making me impulse buy, maybe I shut them off. The reality is, Romina, the reality is the average American doesn't need the latest phone. The average American doesn't need the latest phone. The average American could keep their phone for 3, 4, 5 years. It's like the photos they're
Yeah.
taking, good enough. They're not content creators. So they don't need a better camera because they're not content creators. They're not traveling. If they're broke and they're living paycheck to paycheck, okay, great. You're not traveling and you're not a content creator. So that means that you can go ahead and hold on to your phone for 5 years.
And they don't need they don't need a terabyte in their pocket.
And you don't need a terabyte in your pocket. You can get the lowest memory storage amount. You don't need, okay, you're living paycheck to paycheck. Great. How many subscription services do you have? If it's more than one, what's the deal? That's why it's like, because it adds up. It's like, oh, well, it's not that much and I deserve the entertainment or whatever. It's like, okay, that $15 a month adds up to part of why you don't have a $500 emergency fund.
It's learning to live. It's learning to live below your means.
Even me, Romina, I look at stuff that I do that's dumb sometimes and I go, no, that's bullshit or this, that. Romina, I still, as you know, I sell my used tech.
Mm-hmm.
I make good money. I still sell my used tech. One, I don't need it cluttering up and taking up space. Two, I don't need to accumulate this many material things. Everything I buy is for my business anyway. It's utility. You've seen my house. I live personally, I live as Spartan as possible. Whenever I buy anything, it's for other people to be comfortable. It's for other people to be comfortable. It's for other people to be happy. And even then, I try to not be stupid about it. But when I do spend on other people, I spend on nice things and they last. And that's that. But for me, I don't try to go out and buy stupid things or stats, but even though I made the money to where I have the right to do that technically, and I don't even do it because I know it's stupid. I know that it's the corporations pushing buttons and controlling me if I go and do that. So I don't do it because it's like I buy as little as possible when it comes down to those things. You know what comes to my house, Romina? Books I buy on Amazon sometimes when it's not audiobooks. Like that's it. It's like like I don't have, like, I have consoles, but I have like the old consoles. I bought those things like 4 or 5 years ago and I haven't bought the new ones. The new consoles have been out for years and I don't own the new consoles.
Right.
Like what? Like I can afford it, but why buy another thing that I don't need? That's a distraction. That's going to take time away from, if I go and I do spend time playing that video game, I'm not working on my business. I'm not in the gym working on my body. I'm not reading a book working on my mind. Right. The average American was spending their money and said, I'm going to have a $30 a month gym membership. I'm going to have a $15 membership on Audible for audiobooks instead of Netflix. I'm going to read in the library for free. If I buy something, I'm going to buy a book from Barnes & Noble. Oh, like, I'm not going to go out and buy and treat myself to a $120 pair of shoes. I'm going to put that $120 into my retirement account. This whole living paycheck to paycheck nonsense is avoidable. I'm not saying there are no economic problems that the government, like, yeah, I think the government has a lot of economic problems, especially this administration. I think that there are companies that should pay better wages, and I think there are companies that are overpaying.
Right.
For the customer service that us consumers get. We as consumers overpay for the products and services we get right now. So I don't think everything is, just pay people more wages. Because frankly, a lot of you watching this, a lot of you in the chat right now, you can tell me that over the last 3 years that your customer service has gone to crap and that you haven't gotten a fair bargain for your dollar in years. You can tell me that and it'll be true. That doesn't necessarily get better if you start paying people more for doing less. That doesn't necessarily get better that way.
Or for doing the same.
Right? So I don't think that that's the answer and the end-all be-all solution people claim that it is. I'm not saying I know exactly what it is, but I do know this. I do know that people who get serious about their budget, people who stop buying every new upgrading all the time, people who sell their used items or their gently used items when they're not donating them. I donate a lot of stuff. I know people who keep things for years and years and years, and that when they do buy, they invest in an upgrade and something that betters their life or makes them money.
Right.
Or that's tax deductible. I know that when people do that, that their income and stuff improves. Like, Romina, we have friends who make $35,000, $40,000 a year that live here in Georgia and do fine. Granted, they're single and don't have any kids. That was a choice too of knowing, hey, I'm a brokey. Maybe I don't go out and create financial problems for myself. Like it's a reasonable thing to do if you like, okay. Cause I get it. There's people out there who make like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and they have like a family or 4 or 5. Now, if you went out and you had like kids and did that, that was really irresponsible.
Yeah.
Me taking, when I was taking care of 4 or 5 people, I didn't go out and have any kids. Like that
Right.
wasn't the,
Right. Yeah. You didn't
like,
add to the family tree.
no,
Yeah.
unfortunately, no. It's
Yeah.
like, because would I love to be a dad? Yeah, but I
Mm.
didn't do those things in my 20s, which disqualified me from continuing certain relationships because I was like, no, I'm not in a financial situation to where it makes any sense to do that. And frankly, yeah, that's a hard choice. Would I love to have been like a father at 25, 28 and everything like that? When I love to like, have a 5 or a 10-year-old right now or something like that? Sure, would love to. Financially, I knew it wasn't in the cards and that I needed to like, help my mom and siblings. I knew I needed to do certain things. I knew that there were choices I had to make. I knew I also had to work really hard when I started my business. And that meant that I wasn't always going to be physically or emotionally available for somebody. That ended a lot of relationships or potential relationships, Romina. And that hurts. But guess what? What I wasn't about to do was I wasn't about to like paint myself into a corner and be on the struggle bus just so that
well, you improved your life.
Damn right. And,
right.
And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's bone crushingly
no,
hard.
It's something that you have to think about every time that you make a purchase. Is this an investment? Is it something that's going to improve my life?
Every dollar you spend, you're selling the time that your life was traded for that dollar.
And energy.
But also time. Like energy to somewhat replenishes, but time, you never get back. You never get back. So like when you think about every hour you worked for those dollars, like when the average American, if the average American is so broke, the average American has no business going out and buying an Xbox or a PlayStation. And you know why? And I keep using that example because it's very relevant. It's like, because again, the thing keeps selling out. Because guess why? If the average American is working for $15 an hour or less, let's say it's 10, just to make the math easy. The average American is working for $10 an hour, let's say. Now, every time they go out and they buy an Xbox or a PlayStation, they're trading 60 hours of life for a distraction that's going to take even more life and hours of life away from them of living. And every time they go and they buy a video game for $60, they're trading 6 hours of their life to go ahead and then invest more hours of that life in the video game instead of actually living. That's ridiculous. When you go out and you buy a $300 pair of Jordans, you're trading 30 hours of your life. You're trading a whole week of slaving away at the job, whatever your job was, hard labor, office work, dickhead boss, whatever it is. You're trading 30 hours of your life for that pair of Jordans. When you buy that $500 pair of Louis Vuitton shoes, you're trading 50 hours of your life. You're trading a week of your life, taking a week off of your life for a pair of shoes that you're going to wear so that people feel some kind of way when they look at you. That's ridiculous. Okay. So when you reach a point in status in life where maybe if you're earning a certain amount to where maybe those trades are an hour of your life, it still is a crappy trade, but it's at least somewhat more reasonable at that point. But it's not like and the thing is, it's like, but then you're saying that I shouldn't dress or have things above my station in my life or class. You can think of it that way, and you can think of it as a proletariat bourgeoisie classism argument. But the thing is, if you're trying to buy your way to looking like you have something or feeling like you have something or feeling like you're somebody, you're ignoring the fact that you haven't done the deep work on your self-esteem, the deep work on your personal development, the deep work on your emotional control. Maybe what you should be spending all this money on is therapy, because maybe you need to reconcile all these feelings of insecurity as a person. If you think you need that, because there are people with millions of dollars that don't need any of that and don't do any of that. There's people with millions of dollars that look like they have less than you. And it's because they don't need to look the part when it doesn't serve them. They only look the part when they're going to that party where they need to broker a deal, a handshake deal, or where they need to make a family alliance or a marriage alliance or some crap like that. When they're in Game of Thrones mode, they go ahead and they break out the fancy jewelry and party wear. And then when they're not doing that, they're wearing their TJ Maxx and Costco outfit, being a millionaire next door, passing as a brokey, dressing beneath their station, driving that truck that they've had for 15 years. That still works.
Yeah.
That's how it is. It's like the billionaires look like millionaires and the millionaires look like brokies and the brokies look like they're making six figures. That's the harsh truth of it. And I blame a lot of that on social media, to be fair. But also it's a lack of individual responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, that you know my upbringing, and I feel like even through that, I always knew that when my parents said that no was no, that was it, right? Like, hey, no, this isn't like a thing that we're gonna buy you just because.
Yeah.
And I think that helped to develop that sense of frugality that isn't, I mean, it's not stingy. It's just
No, it makes sense though.
it's kind of like what you were talking about a few minutes ago. It's just like creating like a hierarchy of needs, but
Yes.
before you buy something.
Yeah. No, facts.
So you just got to look at the pyramid and see if you've built the foundation before you buy that thing that you really want to
That's
buy.
exactly what I had to figure out in life. That's what I
Yeah.
had to figure out in life. And, and some of this I can say is like, oh, because next year I'll be 40. So it's like I have
Mm,
hindsight, but I was also very relatively smart about these things young and early on, per se.
mhm,
But what I'll say is I think Will Berry's right. It's like, this is how idiocracy happened. The
mhm,
sensible, smart people are not reproducing. It's like, hey, it's not my fault the dating market is what it is and everything like that. I'd love to have an entire clan of kids and everything. I'd love to
mm,
have, 4 mini Robertos running around right now and everything like that. I'd love to do that. It's not my fault that the market's trash. Like the
mm,
dating market's trash, because you're right. Sensible, responsible. Like,
mm,
dude, I've shown you my Bumble profile, Romina. I don't
mhm,
get swipe right on. And my Bumble profile spells it out. It says business owner, world traveler, homeowner, responsible, no kids, never married, INTJ, and passions and hobbies are photography and wildlife. And it's a good profile. Shows me out taking photos in the wild, shows me on the mountain, shows me on that boat where it's like it's not a yacht, it's me out in the middle of like a lake in a storm,
mhm,
on the boat, like manning the sails. It's like it's a very intrepid photo. It's stuff like that,
mhm,
right? It's like I don't get swipe right on hardly, and when I do, we talk. I get ghosted, or like I do like some stuff. We go like dates, and then it's like it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, and
mhm,
that's fine. I'm not super like mad about it, but making a point to Will's point about idiocracy is in the world is easier to be irresponsible, broke, 6 feet tall, buy Xbox, buy Jordans, and have 5 kids running around than is to be a successful entrepreneur, business owner, and have an outcome and be a responsible good dude and have like kids running around. It's a lot easier to be the party girl and have 3 baby daddies than be the girl who's the bookworm, stays at home, is responsible,
mm,
and is about to buy her condo. It's harder for her to get, a guy that she likes and she'd be attracted to. Like, it's
mhm,
like, you see what I'm saying? It's like there's these weird things about our current society. Despite all this technology, people are not smarter. Despite all this technology, people are not smarter. They're stupider. Despite all this technology and all this abundance of opportunity, people don't have priorities. People don't use them. People don't do these things. Again, people have multiple Apple devices. They don't own any Apple stock. People have multiple gaming consoles, Romina, but
mm,
they don't have the means of production to build a business. I was talking to a female friend of mine.
mm,
I don't think you know her. And she's a streamer, and she was talking about like she's having a like quarter life crisis because she's like about to turn 30. It's
mhm,
like, oh, I'll never like own a home and this, that, next. And I was like, homie, I know how much you make. No, she doesn't make 6 figures. She makes like, I'm not gonna throw her business out there in case people figure out, but it's like she makes like 60, 70K a year between all of her
mhm,
endeavors or whatever, right? And she thinks she'll never be a homeowner. And I'm like, you own in luxury fashion items that you've shown off on your Instagram feed alone, let alone what's in your closet. You own more luxury items and you've spent more on makeup in the last 5 years that I have to come up with for a down payment on my house. Yeah, I
wow.
said that to her, and
Mm,
she was like, "That's impossible. There's no way." I was like, and I was like, "Here's the amount that I paid for the down payment on my house. Here is the amount that I pay on a mortgage in my house. Here's how much it is in escrow. Here's how much it is in taxes. The closing cost of my house. And yes, I was a savvy negotiater, and I got $7,500 toward the closing cost. And so I got that stuff down, and I came in like a G, and I got those historic 3.375% interest rate. Sure. And I only put like 4 or 5% down. My point is, I showed her the numbers. I was like, this is the down payment I paid for my house. It's like, I thought you had a house that's like X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was like, exactly. And this is the down payment on my house. You say you'll never be a homeowner? You already could be. You could have been a homeowner a long time ago. You could have gotten these historic interest rates. You made a choice because you have more luxury items right now in your closet and on your Instagram feed than I spent for the down payment on a house. That with appreciation is now like it's a $500,000 house, but that's because the market went up, then went down. It was going to be higher, then it went down. And just like Mars Bell, I lost a bunch of money in the market on profitable, good companies too, by the way. I've lost 35% of my life savings in terms of my retirement. Thanks to the markets right now and everything like that. Thanks, Biden. So the bull market ends. It's like, it's not entirely the administration's fault, but their policies largely did impact the stock market. And the real estate market and every other market and crypto and everything. So everything's down. Everything's on sale, right? Except for the things you buy. Right. All assets are on sale. All consumer goods are up. Gee, funny how that worked out.
Wow.
Think about that. But the point is, it's all this consumerism. I have friends who, like, my male friends, I actually audited their gaming collections.
Ooh.
I audited their gaming collections, Romina. I audited these dudes' gaming collections, and I said, the current retail value of your gaming collection is the down payment on a house. No one wants to. But because you have to think. It's like if you own, if you spent years as a gamer and you buy 1 or 2 new games a month, it all over the course of multiple years, it all adds up. If you have multiple consoles as well, it all adds up. Because a down payment on a house, everyone keeps thinking a down payment on a house is so much money. We're literally talking, in many cases, $12,000 to $25,000. So I'm going on the lower end here because I live in the South. It's not New York or California. So again, the $12,000 someone needs, yes, that's someone's gaming collection, because literally just the starter bundle for the new consoles is like $1,000. So between an Xbox and a PlayStation and literally a handful of accessories and games, you're already $2,000 in. You see? And then when you accumulate stuff like that over years and stuff like that, it adds up to thousands of dollars. So, and then people buy accessories, people buy, their gaming PC, they do all this stuff and everything like that. It's like, okay, that's the down payment on a house was your hobby. And I'm not saying people can't have hobbies. I'm saying people could be more frugal and they'd be like, I'm gonna have one console or I'm gonna have this PC, but I'm not going to upgrade it every minute. And I'm not going to play every AAA title on max graphics and specs and such.
Right. You also don't need it to be upgraded every minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people went out and bought, Romina, you saw this during the pandemic. People went out and spent $2,000 on graphics cards. Okay. Yeah. That's like a sixth of the price that they need for the down payment on the house. It's a sixth or it's 1/8, and it's one purchase, and it's not a necessity.
Right.
Oh, I can't afford insurance. I can't afford dental. I can't afford dental insurance. You don't need actual healthcare coverage to have dental. Oh, I can't go to the dentist. Right. I can't do this or that. It's like dental is like $15, $20. That's the subscription to Netflix. That's the subscription to this thing or that thing. Or it's not buying that PlayStation or that Xbox or not buying those shoes. It literally is. It's literally not buying the $200 pair of shoes to pay for it for the whole year. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People have that, but they haven't upgraded their glasses, prescription, or their contacts or whatever, and they're sitting there and they can hardly see. It's all this. Their kid will have an Xbox, but their kids won't have braces or glasses.
Yeah, man, I don't understand that at all. I really don't get that. Again, that's that it comes down to the pyramid. It comes down to the hierarchy
Yeah.
of what do you need to buy before you can or should buy the
Do
next thing.
something. Yeah, no. Facts. Like and again, I do blame the corporations and the advertising and the social media for a lot of it because again, there's a lot of monkey see, monkey do. If people, oh, someone so and so has that, so I should have it. A lot of people do that.
Now, hold on. I want to because Will said something in the chat. I think that it's uh, Roberto would not condone somebody for having an expensive hobby. It's
To
not
a
so
point.
much having the expensive hobby, it's having the expensive hobby and then complaining that you can't afford
And
other
then
things.
complaining that you exactly so. It's
Because
only if you complain. I
if
have friends
you
that if they
if you
never
are
complain, so
spending
I don't say jack to them if they don't complain. I only give them a hard time
right,
if they complain.
and if you are spending a bunch of money on your hobby or your side hustle even, and it is film slash photography, um, yeah, that is a hobby that can get
It can
expensive
make you money.
depending
They can also make you money.
it depends on like where you're at, but it can also make you money on the side if it is something you can sell some of your prints, you can do headshot photography, et cetera, right? But if you are renting and you don't have any desire to buy a house, so you don't need a down
Then
payment,
that's fine. That's
it's not a
different.
problem. It only becomes a problem when you're spending 10 grand on a camera, um and then you're also saying, oh well, like I can't afford this or I can't afford that, and
It's like
like
if you go and you go out and you say, "Oh, you know what? It's like I really want that." Like friend of mine,
mm,
teacher,
mm,
she wants to save up for an $1,800 luxury handbag, and I'm like, "You're a teacher." It's like, well, I'm gonna go to fancy dinners sometimes. It's like, right, and there's fancy people who make the kind of like money at the level that I am are not gonna give a crap about your fancy handbag. You know who's gonna care about that and everything like that? A lot of broke women are gonna care about your fancy handbag if you want like a um I think she wanted a Coco Chanel bag or something like that.
mm,
It's like, and she wanted to do that for herself. I'm like, look, at least you're saving for it, and it's from your side money from tutoring on the side. But that
right.
$1,800, and yes, you're putting all your money in your retirement. You're being responsible. You know what you could do with that $1,800? You want to have that handbag for those maybe 3 dinners, 5 dinners you're going to go to a year or over the next 2 or 3 years where because of your value system, you're probably not even going to like those rich, expensive people who might compliment you in the first place. You could take that same $1,800 and you
Mm,
could take a trip to Japan. You could take a trip to Italy. You could take a trip
mm,
to Greece for that $1,800 or save a little bit more than that 1,800 and do that.
right.
And
Enrich your life.
you will literally have those memories, those
Mm,
photos, that experience forever when
hmm
you're older, and that hat bag ain't gonna mean so much to you and everything like that. If you were gonna spend money on anything, it should be experiences instead of things.
Yep.
It's like because again, oh, I want this. You want the handbag because it's the status. You want the handbag because what you really want is you want to buy the compliments. You want to buy the
Yeah.
compliments of the handbag because you can have a nice handbag and not be $1,800. It could be $300. It could be $150. You could buy something. You could find something gently used. You could get something from Poshmark, and it doesn't have to even need to be a name brand. But even if it is, and it could be a fraction of that, and no one would know that's not your used, that you're the one who's used it if it's gently used. No one would know. You're the
Right.
only one who knows that, I bought a new handbag. You're the only one who knows what that's worth and what that means. And again, who cares? The only thing that can happen is
Mm,
people look at you differently.
yeah.
So what? They're not going to live your life and you'll never see them again. You really want to be impressed that much. You want to impress people that much that you're never going to see again or that you're going to see 4 times out of the freaking year when you dress up fancy and go to a fancy dinner. It's like it does nothing for you.
I think that's a great place to end this episode.
Yeah. The
I mean, I
quote,
don't have any last
there is
words,
a
but
George
if you want to
Carlin
add
quote
something
that
that
later became a Tyler Durden quote that then later became a Roberto Blake quote. People spend money they people spend money they don't have working jobs they don't like to buy shit they don't need to impress people they don't like.
facts, straight up fire.
That's why people live paycheck to paycheck. But anyway, Thank you for listening to the No Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talked about nothing, absolutely nothing, which is also what's in a lot of people's bank accounts. Tune in next time for another exciting topic or quote unquote debate where we violently just end up agreeing. We'll catch you next time, everybody. Nope.